Hey everyone, Margarita here. Today's Saturday, March 22nd, 2025, and I just want to do an update on Ford spill number 3, which happened almost 2 months ago, and kind of give an update on where my symptoms are, what's actually going on, because yesterday I had called Eagle, and I skipped over the EPA. At this point, you know, when I call these places, I'm not calling asking questions about what's going on, asking people to give me information, and no one's comprehending that. I'm calling to tell them what's going on, and I need them to flush where my house sits. Due to the fact that I own a $400,000 house, and I'm chronically sick and permanently injured and experiencing very severe symptoms from the spill, and it's life-threatening because I'm still clearing the initial medical emergency, the initial overload of carbon monoxide from 2018, still working on clearing that on top of the fact that these additional gas particles are being added to it into my system, and it's making me extremely unwell, having to shelter in place and can't get from point A to point B safely. So none of these people are comprehending at any time during this that I'm not calling to ask their professional opinion, because my opinion about them, you don't know anything that you're talking about. I know exactly how everything works because of what I've been through. In the first gas spill, I was having to travel an hour north to treatment up 75, and I was driving about 35 minutes south to get to work regularly. Well, not regularly, but 3 nights a week or so, sometimes less, sometimes, no, it wasn't really more, but sometimes less than that because I was so sick. But had to do that regularly. And then sometimes I'd have to take us up out of here and get another hotel further south of that. And then during the initial spill, I also had to go, I ended up a half hour west. So during all of this, I was able to see how it worked because I'm so sick. I was like that sick back then. My brain tissue was just a little more open, so I could feel it even more than I do today. Still, it's not a problem. I can feel where every particle is at all times. I know exactly how it works. I watched every truck flush every city out. As I had to jump further out to outrun the gas, each city was flushing, and I catch the trucks. They like to do it late at night so nobody knows, nobody sees, in unmarked trucks most of the time. That way nobody can see that that's what they're doing. And then they don't report it, and they tell everybody it's contained, it's going everywhere. So because of my long drives during this, I know exactly how it worked. That in my system, it was loading in my system. That's why we had to go to treatment twice a week to make sure we tried to clear it from our system, or we weren't going to live. The particles were so high during that initial gas leak. At no time was it ever even EPA's level of all clear for the first 6 months that they returned everybody home. I know that much. I can tell you that much because the incident with the fishermen finding the oil or the gas in the river, that whole time it had not been clear. What they manipulate the results of the tests that they got to make it within their levels of EPA's all clear. There's different factors involved, and the temperature also plays a role, and where they're getting their sample from within the air. If they're getting it in somebody's home, if they're getting it upstairs, downstairs, and then they refuse to check outside where it's extremely high as well. So at no time was it ever EPA's level of all clear for like the first 6 months for the people that stayed in the area. But everybody else has a blood-brain barrier that's intact, so they would never know what I know. And then they believe what they see on the news. The other thing is, who do you think makes the news? The elites control the news. The news is controlled. Controlled to let you know what they want you to know, not what's actually going on. And I don't even watch TV. I'm very well aware because I can see straight through it. And I understand the world to such an extreme degree because of how I've had to live my life and everything I've been through that I don't need to watch the news. The majority of it's fake. Over 50% of it is not real, or it's manipulated to make you believe something that in a certain manner. They make you want to believe it a certain way of whatever situation it is. So there would be I don't watch TV anyway. TV's a waste of time. I've been reading books my entire life. I do nothing but read. I receive messages. I do different things, but I work on things. I've been filming these videos for almost a year. I spent most of my life working in reality, in real life, not on the internet, not on social media, not watching TV. That's why I know the things that I know. That's why I'm so far ahead of everybody else in life. That and my deranged mother and her criminal actions along the way, using all these large agencies to chase me. So with each situation, I had to figure things out to an extreme degree to beat each situation that she put in my path. So that's how I know what I know. And all these people and all these agencies that I've called all along the way, whether it was 2021, 6 months ago, or current, whatever, they don't realize that I have that extreme degree of knowledge, and they believe that I'm some 12-year-old who's like, they talk to me like I'm a 12-year-old who's just paranoid of getting carbon monoxide poisoning because I once had it. That's not at all what's going on here. Now, I initially overloaded in 2018 after the place operated without their ventilation system working at all. And prior to that, I was coming in there every weekend getting exposed because the level was never zero. There was significantly high amounts, and those amounts would be up and down all throughout my shifts, those couple shifts I worked, and then I'd be gone all week. And then at some point, the ventilation system stopped working altogether, and they operated without it working altogether. That's how I overloaded. From that day forward, I never cleared that load, that overload of carbon monoxide. My body is still flowing up and down with that. Not really flowing up and down at this point because it's settled into my cells. So about 90 days into an extreme carbon monoxide poisoning, if it doesn't get removed, it settles into your cells. So that ended up happening because I went 14 months before beginning treatment. And then any additional little particles adds to it, and you come in near death, in extreme state, near death, very fast with every breath of every type of particle. Because then it broke through my brain tissue on the 23rd. The blood-brain barrier it exploded internally, and it broke, and I felt every second of it. I lived through it to talk about it. Prior to all this, me stepping foot in that building, I had no medical history whatsoever for the previous 20 years except for my chiropractor. Completely healthy. No doctor. No primary doctor even on file. So, that just says everything. So when these people talk to me, they talk to me like I'm a 12-year-old idiot who knows nothing. They talk to 12-year-olds better than they talk to me. And the response I got from this guy, because I get similar responses from most people. And because some of them spend so much time in college, they really believe their information is real when they're telling me these things that they're telling me. And I'm like, that's not how it works. And I try to tell them that that's not how it works. And they're so brainwashed, they're not even listening to anything I'm saying. But I know how it works because of my extreme condition and what I've been through and how I've been forced to live all this time and how I got us to where we are today and how I kept us alive and what's all gone on from that day today. All these people out here seem to think that I had a carbon monoxide poisoning all these years ago and then was just okay, like shortly after that at some point. And then I'm just paranoid that I'm gonna get poisoned by carbon monoxide again. So that's another thing I hear. Each one of these people try to act like there's some carbon monoxide in my home. My home is carbon monoxide free. There's no carbon monoxide in my fucking home. Like, this is my sterile environment. It's been this way my entire injury. We couldn't have one breath of 1 part per million at any time from the day I overloaded. At any time during this. It creates extreme symptoms immediately. And it takes over our systems 1,000 times faster than somebody who's not. So that's why it's so life-threatening to us. I've been carrying it up to the second detector with me for the past 6.5 years, so I know exactly how carbon monoxide works at this point with where I've been and what's all gone on, because initially I was homebound for a long time. But I know exactly how it works with each situation. There's a lot of it out there, actually. Like out and about in the world, there's quite a bit of it. Quite a bit of large bursts of it. There's quite a bit of little amounts of it everywhere. Not everywhere, literally, but when I try to tell people that, they're like, really? Then are you still alive? They say like the dumbest thing to me. So all these people seem to think that my injury was a one-time incident that happened in the past and I'm just paranoid I'm going to get poisoned again. Not comprehending the extreme nature of our condition, what I went through initially, being extremely overloaded, extreme suffocation, extreme brain swelling, extreme irritation, extreme ADD, extreme anxiety, extreme amounts of carbon monoxide, fully overloaded in my entire body in every cell, and I could barely get from room to room, and it would take me 4 to 6 hours every day to do that. And that I didn't live that way for 3 years. And then went through everything that I went. They act like that's not at all what happened. Mind you, my symptoms from then are still ongoing to this day. They've never stopped. I'm still removing the initial overload, plus all the re-exposures, the re-injuries, the large spills. We live modified lives. We live mostly homebound with modified lives. If there's no spills going on and everything's clear outside, we can kind of do more normal people things. But when that's going on, we can't. But it's not all the time because I also have 5 brain injuries. And I'm also still trying to remove the carbon monoxide and heal the brain tissue. So there's numerous issues. But these people act like that's not what happened to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. You can tell by the way they talk to me. And then when I try to tell them how it really works, they try to talk circles around me and try to retell me whatever textbook they read told them that, or whatever professor told them that along the way. That's not how things work. I got my information firsthand. I'm living it. I'm the reason I know this because of everything I've been through. Not only that, but I have numerous providers who have watched me. There's numerous people who've watched me go through this long term. Numerous people. So you got Charmaine, who've watched all this the last 5 years. You have my primary doctor that I currently have. They've been involved 4 years. I had the other guy for 3 years. Well, it was 4 years because I was seeing him for about a year before I overloaded. I had no primary doctor prior to that. So the day that all happened, he had seen me for about a year of once a month. And I kept coming back like, no, something's wrong. But he didn't know me prior to the first brain injury, prior to me giving birth while suffering from the carbon monoxide poisoning. So I just didn't know what was wrong yet. So, I knew something was wrong. That's why I got the primary doctor. But he visibly saw there was an extreme situation from the last time he saw me to that time, and you could visibly see something very extreme had happened. And then when I told him about the ventilation system and what was going on, we knew it was carbon monoxide. It all come out at that point. He knew. He diagnosed it right away. I couldn't get treatment, and it's due to my deranged mother and her criminal involvement with being a Beaumont employee for 45 years. And so, because I Blue Care Network, what we tried to do was we kept trying to get referrals and send me to specialists who understood it better, so I could so they could like walk me into the hospital basically and get me treatment, or at least prescribe the script to get it somewhere. And so that's how we were trying to go about it. But I did not know in that moment, it was so extreme for so long that I did not know this for years, that it was my mother causing all those problems. But no one is comprehending that this is ongoing for me to this day, from that initial overload on January 11, 2018, and when it broke through on January 23rd, 2018, I'm still removing that initial overload along with all these additional spills, particles, whatever I take in. And that I've been suffering I suffered extreme symptoms day in and day out for 3 years, and ongoing symptoms from that day forward. They're up and down every day. They don't stop ever. I don't care what you saw me do when, or who told you they saw me doing what, wherever. The symptoms never stop. I was forced to continue to try to produce my own income because that's how I've built everything. That's how I run our lives. That's what I've been doing all these decades. Because I'm self-employed, I managed to barely skate by working 1 or 2, 4 or 5 hour shifts a week, able to control when I do that, and then I would be laid out all week long and could do nothing else. Not only that, I couldn't even drive myself there. And the only reason I recovered to the degree that I did it at 3 years in was because of COVID, and I got the COVID pay for 16 months to stay home. I got a little longer than that, but I stayed home for 16 months and did nothing but treatment. That's how I got myself to where I am today. So all these people misconstrue when I'm trying to call, explain the situation, explain that I need my home cleared. The sewer drain is where it's coming from in the front lines of my house, and it flows through the windows. That's what's going on here. I don't care who's telling who what over in the city and whatever. That's how it works. That's what's going on. That's where it's coming from. So when I'm trying to tell these people this, they're not listening to anything I'm saying, and they just seem to think, each person mentions, you got a carbon monoxide detector in your home? Okay, if I relied on that, I'd be dead already. Those don't go off for hours. And it has to be like 50 parts per million for like 4 hours, or it has to be like a higher amount for a couple hours less than that. Either way, if I relied on that, I'd be dead. I'd be dead. I carry it up to the second detector. I know exactly. I don't even need a detector. I know exactly how it works. I don't need anybody to tell me. Each breath causes extreme symptoms. Not only that, carbon monoxide is its own set of symptoms when I take that in versus any other particle of any other kind. So each particle, each spill, chemical, gas, whatever, each thing, it has its own symptoms. They're not the same it's not the same symptoms. It's added to the carbon monoxide that's loaded up in my system, and nobody's comprehending that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a little science experiment, and I'm going to put together a bottle and show you how it all works and how it breaks through the brain tissue. Because now when I call legal, this was his response to me. That never happened to me, and I was never poisoned by carbon monoxide, and it never broke through my brain tissue. That's what he said to me. That's not what's going on. We never even got to the spill. That's why I was calling, that I need it flushed further. It did rain 2 days ago with wind, and it almost did break through my brain some more. The levels were really high in my house. And I was on the floor crying, and it disrupts everything I do. Even if I'm homebound, it disrupts everything that I'm doing, and I'm completely laid out for days, incapacitated due to either the brain swelling or the particles loading up in my brain, or the extreme symptoms that flowing up and down in my system, or suffocation, or my heart will be going really fast, or I'll have extreme nausea where I'm completely incapacitated for very long periods of time. It's been going on for the last 18 hours or so. I had to do a lot of things this morning so I could even make this video. I just wanted to give an update on where it's all at, because I drove in a giant triangle yesterday trying to see, because I haven't been out, so I don't know this spill around, this third spill. I haven't been out and about. I've been sheltering in place, so I had to get a good idea of where it all was, and I physically had to go to Monroe because I'm trying to get my home chamber working again, because I know if I don't get that working again soon, that I'm not going to live, and I know that. And nobody's listening to me. That's why I keep trying to make these phone calls. So I let some time go by. I assess where it's at. Once it gets and it's still really bad out there, that I got to do something about it. So hopefully I'll have that in place next week. Hopefully everything goes through the way it's supposed to, and it should. There's no reason it shouldn't. So it should. And once that happens, then we won't there won't be such an extreme risk of death, because then we'll be able to start removing what we're taking in. Because as of right now, we have no way to remove anything we're taking in. Other than these other small methods I use, we still need the hyperbaric treatments, which have been on a pause. So we do have to get that going immediately, or I will not be living. Now, all these people and their perception of me, I do have all these medical documents right here. I'm going to do my next video. That's why I have them out here, because I'm going to do my next video on all these medical documents and all the bullshit going on with the Oxford Center. The whole thing was not fraudulent. I came with my own doctor. I'll get into all that. But the person who took my information particularly, not every person there was a bad person. The person who took my information initially, and when this all started, when I got my documentation from there, that person's credentials are legit and intact, and that person is an operating, I don't know what she is, registered nurse or nurse practitioner, something like that. They use levels of nurses and EMTs, and that's how they do it within their center. So I'll get more into the center and the medical documents in a minute, because this guy just tried to say everything I went through, I never went through, and I never even made it to talking about the gas and the reason I called. He's just trying to say that didn't happen to me. Same thing with the guy from the city in the phone call in episode 10, I believe it, or was it episode 10? Where I called the city, episode 5 or 10 of spill 3. Yeah, same thing. They act like I don't know where the carbon monoxide is. I don't need somebody to tell me. I know exactly how it works. If I had any, I wouldn't be alive. I can't have carbon monoxide. My degree of knowledge on how all this works is 1,000 times bigger than all these people who spent 10, 20 years in college. That's how I'm still alive, because it's my knowledge and everything I've had to go through my entire life with all these agencies chasing me and all these situations and mountains my mother's put in front of me, and the degree of sickness that we had, and then her withholding treatment in that extreme of a medical emergency, being Beaumont's employee, and the way I had to go about it, and how I made it through any of that, because there is not another human being, first of all, who would have ever lived through that degree of a severe carbon monoxide poisoning, where it's broken through the brain tissue and then they live to talk about it, but then be left for dead by the medical system because they just so happen to have a mother with Munchausen by proxy who works there. And then still figure out how to get treatment from there and keep yourself and your child alive during all that and get you to where you are today. There isn't another case like it. So all these people, saying whatever they want to say about me, none of that. Whatever they got to say, that's not real. They don't have facts. Wherever they got their information from and how they're saying this works and that works, those aren't facts. That's something somebody told them, or they read it in a textbook. All my information came from actual life experience and what I saw with my own 2 eyes along the way all these decades. I've never watched TV. Never. Hardly. I spent my whole life working. I don't watch TV. That's controlled by the elites. They only show you what they want you to see. That stuff's over 50% of it is controlled. It's not even real, half of it. And so I know I'm not on social media. I'm not sitting here on social media. I'm not on TV. I legitimately spent my whole life working. I'm not out here doing the same things as everybody else. And all those years I spent, but while I was basically trapped living at my parents' house till I turned 18 and got my own house, I was basically grounded my whole life. All I did was read books of all kinds. All those years I read books. All different types of books. And then I went out into the world and I got all this actual life experience before I became incapacitated for all that time. So I had 20 years of actual life experience out there figuring all this crazy stuff out. And then got extremely sick and got forced to figure out more. That's how things work. So I do know what I'm talking about. Everything I'm saying. I don't care if you live by me and you're not experiencing symptoms. The reality is the amount in the air, even after the initial spill and they returned everybody home, that was manipulated for them to get a certain amount to be readable on their metrics and how they're measuring everything and on paper. they used a certain system that they manipulated to get certain numbers so they could return everybody home and give the all clear, because all clear is not all clear. And so it was actually a significant, it was higher than the EPA's allowable amount in people's homes. And for about 6 months, I'd say, most people's homes. And in the general area during, I'd say it was 6 months to a year, it was not even EPA's level of all clear outside. The thing is, they refused to check the outside air. They refused to incorporate that into any test results. So the outside air is extremely high. Now I've learned this all along the way firsthand. I'm not wrong about any of it. If you don't believe me, go order your own air test from your own company. Go get an independent company. Have them do the outside air. They can order a canister for you for about $1,700. You can get somebody out here. They get a canister. You can check your house if you want and have them move it from room. They work for you. You can put it in different rooms. The EPA won't check certain areas on purpose. So that's its own issue. And, that's actually how cancer is caused. Cancer is just a buildup of like toxins or lack of oxygen in a certain organ or area or whatever's gone on. It can happen so many different ways, but it's just lack of oxygen to that organ due to some type of toxin, an abundance of a toxin of some sort made its way in there over the course of time. That's basically what it is. And there's different types, there's different kinds, there's many ways that works. But that's why the actual cure for cancer is hyperbaric oxygen treatment. That's why, because it reverses it, just like carbon monoxide. It's common sense, actually. So all that radiation, all you're doing is putting more toxin. That's still going to kill you in the long run. You're just putting more stuff in your system. You're not clearing any of it. Yeah, you might be killing the cancer that they created in the first place. The same people who are selling you the radiation are the same people who make the toxins that are in the food and in the air. And so, they're selling you the cure, and it's not even the cure. You're actually still going to be sick. They're just generating all types of money. You are the experiment. They're generating all types of money off your body and your family. So the people living around me, there is people with compromised blood-brain barriers, not to the degree mine is. But there is people with compromised blood-brain barriers, and if that's the case, you're going to be experiencing symptoms of some sort, maybe not to the degree I am, but there's people that are going to be experiencing things. And even if you don't have that, I know the level's pretty high, so that a regular person may be experiencing symptoms that has no problem. Overall, in the long run, everyone's going to end up with cancer, basically. Like I said, I already had plans for this house years ago before the first spill. I have no choice but to get it all in order, because the manner in which I've built things, I can't go back and work for somebody else due to my injuries being so extreme, and I stay incapacitated for long periods of time, and then I have to shelter in place for long periods of time. It doesn't stop. But like I said, my symptoms are ongoing from the initial injury, and then any little bit that gets added to it. And currently I'm not treating, so that makes it much worse, much harder. And this happens all the time. It's happened all along the way. And just because I'm self-employed is the only reason I've been able to maintain all this time and keep everything going. But I've had these plans this house should have already been an Airbnb. I should already be moved into a different house somewhere else. So, regardless, there's nothing I can do about it but finish carrying out my plans. I can't go back and work for somebody else. I'm too far permanently injured. I am going to talk about all that in my medical documents in the next video that I make. This morning, it took me a really long time to be able to make this video. I had to do a lot of things this morning because I've been with extreme nausea since last night. It's been like 18 hours because I went out and about. And now I have not gone out. So now I can kind of report back about what I found upon going out and about. I went in a giant triangle, went to Monroe, came back to Flatrock, and then I went from Flatrock to Romulus. I went from Romulus to Dearborn, and straight back 75 back to Flatrock. That's why I want to make this video and kind of give everybody an update, and I had to state all that so you know how I know what I know. Because all these agencies and people are trying to discredit me and paint me as mentally disordered, and oh, that never happened, oh, she made it up, oh, she paid somebody to make those medical documents, oh, she did this, she did that. I'm so sick of all that bullshit. And I am going to expose every single person and agency involved in all these crimes, all this cover-up, everything that's happened to me, all the extreme harassment from these agencies, and causing all this to continue on for me, while taking my delusional mother's phone calls in the background, still taking these phone calls to this day, and they have me pegged as mentally disordered because their blood-brain barrier is intact and they can't comprehend how I know what I know. So I just told you in this whole video how I know what I know. I am that sick. There are people who have watched me go through this for years, day in and day out. My kids' opinions don't really count. My older kids, their opinions don't really count because they're brainwashed to some degree, and they were not with me 100% of the time during all of this to this point. My youngest, his opinion would count, but not the other two. But all the other adults in our lives who have watched me go through this long term can verify that that is the case. back up what you saw at what time period, what was going on. You know, you might see me doing regular people stuff sometimes. That's because the air's clear, or I'm having like an okay day, like the symptoms are under control for that day. I haven't had any re-exposures and the air's clear. Yeah, I can do some regular people stuff when that happens, but sometimes that's not the case, and that's not the case for months. And during that first spill, that went on for like 2 years. We couldn't have a breath of fresh air. It was about, gosh, it was like a year before we had one breath outside of fresh air because the particle levels were so high until we got all the way to Ohio. And I actually recorded the recording of my son on his scooter once we got down there. And he got to play outside like a regular kid. And I filmed it because I didn't know, first of all, during the first 5 years of his life, I didn't even know if that was ever going to be possible. And then finally we get out of all this and get down there, and he's outside playing like a regular kid, and I could not believe my eyes, and I recorded it. So I'll release that little short video because I didn't know if I was ever going to have that or see that, or if I was ever going to leave the four walls of my house. But now what I did is, let me get back to this spill. I just had to kind of elaborate on how I know all this, because all these people are trying to say I don't know what I'm talking about. I just have a mental disorder. I've never been diagnosed with a mental disorder. Those are delusions. And these people don't know what they're talking about. I don't care if they spent 10, 20 years in college. They don't know what they're talking about. They did not learn this firsthand. They got this information from who's ever in charge of planning all the corrupt bullshit. Or whatever textbook or whatever professor told them whatever. That's where they got their information. They did not experience it themselves to know this. I did. That's how I know this. So I'm going to tell you, yesterday, I went from Flatrock to Monroe to try to get my hyperbaric chamber up and running. And I need the concentrator portion, which my private insurance is willing to pay for a monthly rental price, at least until I can get the one that I own replaced from. It's technically part of the crimes why it's not working, technically, if you want to get all funny about it. But my homeowner's insurance is looking into paying for that for me, or sending me the money to replace that because I owned it. In the meantime, my private insurance is going to pay for a rental. The place was all the way down Monroe, so I had to go all the way down. I had to. I didn't have a choice. And I haven't been out and about, so that's how I checked the air. And mind you, I do have other methods of trying to get rid of some of this. I just can't clear all of it. Now, I went down there, came back, and I drove with the windows down by myself, not with my kid in the car, so I could check myself. And I would say about 3 to 5 miles out, south and west and north, all in the same radius. It's about 3 to 5 miles out is where the majority of it's starting to dissipate at. But the closer you get, as you get closer to Flatrock, where the epicenter is, like where it all happened, where the plant is, where the Ford plant is, that's where it's the strongest. And my house happens to be on the main front flow line where their sewer drain, they put it into the drain system, like the rainwater drain system. It goes through the sewer line in front. I don't care what anybody's telling you, and they're telling you that's not how it works. I've been told the most ridiculous things over the phone, and here I am trying to tell them that's not how it works. They're still not listening to me. So that's why I'm kind of making this video as well. Did want to let everybody know that is what's going on. It's not all clear. It's not within EPA's level of all clear. Not where my subdivision is, not where my house is, not on the front flow line at least. And I'm sure it's in most of these people's homes around me. I'm sure there's a readable amount of some degree. And I do believe another part of it has to do with your windows, like the quality of your windows and the material of your windows. I do believe that plays a role as well. So, I mean, I really don't think anybody's home is 100% clear. Right, at least down this street right here. Like, so, you know, like from the end, like where Gibraltar Road is to where, I guess you could say, to like where here on River Drive is. I don't think any of those homes are clear. So, at all. There's a readable amount. It's just, some of those might be EPA's level of all clear, but that's not all clear. So, the way they check for it's fraudulent. These systems are all fraudulent. Nobody knows what they're talking about. The epidemiologist at MDHHS, he was trying to talk circles around me too. He was acting like I was calling asking for information. I'm telling you the information. I'm telling you I need my home flushed. This is why. Where the sewer line flushed in front of my home. This is why. No one's comprehending anything I'm saying. Everybody's writing on a mental disorder. Nobody's comprehending what I've actually been through. They're all full of shit. Eventually, if you stay here long term and they keep doing this long term, eventually you will have cancer. That's how it works. But I've had plans to get myself out of here. You know, I was already supposed to be gone at this point, but all these people and agencies keep disrupting all my work and everything I'm building. So that's a part of it, and there's nothing I can do but wait it out at this point, because now I'm under Chapter 13 bankruptcy due to all their crimes. But now I am going to come back, and I'm going to talk more about all these medical documents I have, because there's some false information going on about the Oxford Center and what was going on there, and I'm I'm going to elaborate more on that because some of my medical documents did come from there, and they are legitimate documents. So the person who wrote them at the time and what was going on at the center at the time was all legit, and how I was going about going there was extremely legit. It was like double legit at that time. And the person who wrote my documents, her credentials are intact and safe, and she's pretty sure a practicing nurse or something. It's somewhere out, like far out in Michigan, like Utica maybe, I think I found. I don't really know. But she's a legit person. Her credentials are legit. There was a doctor on staff when my papers were initially written up, and I brought all the medical documentation proving what had actually happened, because I was pregnant, ironically, so there was already accidental blood work. So I was able to produce that when my documents were written at that place. So it shows everything along the way, because I had no previous medical history for 20 years. So it shows the change when I started going into that building, and it shows what happened during labor and delivery. You can see what happened if you look at them all over time. So my documents are proper, and there's all these people talking all this shit. I'm sure my mother's out here telling people I got ripped off, just like that, just like the Eagle, the guy on the Eagle, or whoever answered the phone trying to tell me I got ripped off. Somebody's scamming me, this and that. What I went through was not real. It never broke through my brain. Okay, buddy. That's right. So I'm going to expose all these people and agencies some more. And I do want to, there's a few different subjects I want to talk about because of the videos I filmed last night as well. So I am going to try to get those all out today, because my only way out of this is to expose everybody for what's been going on and to get my mother apprehended, or I'm not going to be able to get, I might be able to hang in a little longer, but I don't know how, without the truth coming out and her being apprehended and this all stopping, it's going to eventually take me out completely, and I need some type of working order in place, and she's at the root of everything that's gone on. That's why Ford feels they can still spill, and why they feel they did not have to clear my home all the way, and it's only because I could not travel from point A to point B and produce these documents I'm about to do the next video on in that moment. I could not get them in that moment because I was so close to death. My life was in such extreme danger, and I was really far away from any of these providers. So I will come back and talk about all that, and that is part of the crimes at the Oxford Center as well. So that's another situation I have brewing in the background that I have to take care of. I do have like several large situations on my plate. Even though I'm permanently disabled, this entire time I have stuff going. I still have 2 to 4 times more on my plate than I can handle. So I'm going to continue to make the videos. I'm going to try to crank out a few more today. I'm going to try to post what I can in case I end up incapacitated again, and I do have to make my way to the Troy Police Department very soon. So I will be back with another one. Thanks, bye.